And welcome back. Do you know a young man that is searching for some sound guidance in both personal, academic, and professional opportunities? Well, the AIMHigh Empowerment Institute is hoping to provide that opportunity at its Male Empowerment Symposium and College Fair that's coming up right around the corner. Sitting down and discussing more about the event are Cecil Wright, co-founder of AIMHigh, and Sherman Browne, Chief Empowerment Officer. And good to have you both. Welcome. Back.
Good to have you again.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Exciting time of year.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And certainly when we talk about young men and when it comes to education, obviously there is that disparity and that gap. But I know that the work that you guys do really is, with no pun intended, aimed at trying to to better that gap. So take it away.
Well, I mean, you and I both know that there's a huge amount of research that talks about how bad young men are doing across the country, especially in the Bronx. And one of the things that we've done over the past 14 years is figure out a way how to counteract that narrative. And the narrative is simple saying is that we believe that these young men, if you give them the tools, if you give them the attention, if you give them the resources to do well, they can succeed. So we're using what's called an anti-deficit model. And the AIMHigh Empowerment Institute is simple built on that model, that if we give them the resources, if we empower these young men, if we tell them how good they are and what they can become and show examples of great successful men like themselves, they'll be great. So this entire institute is built on that notion, and in a couple of next week we'll be hosting an annual event for the last 9 years that really focus on helping young men to find their purpose and change their lives.
So talk a little more about the adventure.
Yeah, so this event has been going on for a number of years. This year we are excited. We're going to have about 300 to 400 young men here at Lehman College, and these young men are going to be able to sit down with mentors, professionals from different walks of life. I'm talking about doctors, I'm talking about attorneys, I'm talking about entrepreneurs who come from similar conditions, maybe bad backgrounds, but they've never allowed their geography to determine their biography. They wrote a different story for their lives, and they're going to share those stories with those young men. And the reason why we believe sharing those stories are important is because we recognize in order to really affect our young men in a positive way, you have to connect before you correct. And that's what's going to be happening on that day.
And to have these young men have the opportunity to really meet other people, professionals and working class professionals who've had similar experiences. Talk about the difference that exposure makes. What kind of exposure, what difference does exposure make in the lives of these young men?
Well, exposure is key. Think about it. A lot of these young men sometimes grow up in neighborhoods where the only thing they see are probably gangsters in some situations or bad influences. But this event, they're going to be sitting with, a good example, we have the Deputy Commissioner of Corrections Department, Mr. Raymond Garcia, who's come to this event. And he's going to come, right, as a Deputy Commissioner, Hispanic, who grew up in the Bronx, to sit with these young men at a table and volunteer his time to share with them. We have, some of the folks we have who we know have come for years are professionals such as doctors. And when they come, they're just coming there just to talk about their success. Well, share their story. Well, I grew up in Edenwald Project. I grew up in the South Bronx. I went to this school, went to that school. And the big thing about this whole event is this. These young men will get a chance to see someone who's sitting across the table from them, who look like them, who probably came through similar circumstances, and realize that a small part of them right now where they are is in that individual across the table. So it's about empowering. It's a power of storytelling. If you told your story, all the things you went through to get to being host of this great show, folks, other journalists out there, young men out there were saying, oh, I could do the same thing. So our job is to make sure is that we can continue to proliferate the idea that by storytelling, the greatest tool in this world to impact change storytelling, even the biblical stories, have influenced changes in the African-American life over the years. As a matter of fact, even fake stories have helped people get somewhere.
Right.
Or has some real stories.
Fake news,
right? So imagine real story of success, about how people change their lives by just taking one step at a time to give these young men hope. And we're looking forward to sharing those stories with them next week.
So where do you get these brothers from? Where do you get these young men from?
Yeah, so right now we have about 6 schools that currently have the AIMHigh Empowerment Institute as a program, running as a year-long program. So this event is going to be bringing all those students together. together, as well as other schools that we've partnered with. This year we did what's called our Epic Impact Tour. It's an annual tour that we do where we do these student assemblies with these students. So we are getting young men from all these different areas who's going to be there on that day. So they're going to be able to tremendously benefit from the program.
And after the experience, what kind of response do you get from these young men who have the opportunity to share in this? Because you've been doing this for a few minutes now.
Yeah, so you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Browne.
So the young men are always very excited. I mean, the exposure that we talk about really illuminates their minds to what's possible. Many of the young men express the fact that I didn't have the vision that I could be in these different areas, but now hearing these stories of these other men who have went through this, it's something that I could look forward to now. So we get a lot of positive feedback, but the young men are always ready to take action immediately thereafter. And that's why we have the program embedded in the school so that they not just get the exposure that one time, but to keep the long-term connection. Plus, the young men get to connect with these mentors who also participate in other events, other activities with the young men beyond this one-day event.
So for people who want more information, what do they do before we get out of here?
Yeah, so well, they'll go to info@aimhighei.org if they want to participate, or they could just go to aimhighei.org if they want to learn more about the event and if they want to have Aim High come to their school as well.
All right, well,
Absolutely.
certainly we want to do that. We got to bring you back
Listen,
again.
thank you
Good
for
to
having
see you.
us.
Thanks
Excellent.
again.